A 24-year-old graphic designer in Chicago makes $55,000 a year. After federal taxes, state taxes, and health insurance, her take-home pay is roughly $3,400 a month. The average rent for a completely basic one-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood is $1,100. Groceries, utilities, a basic car payment, and student loans eat up another $1,200. She has $100 left at the end of the month, one unexpected medical bill or one car breakdown, and she goes into debt. She works 45 hours a week, and everyone on the internet keeps telling her she needs to stop buying iced coffee if she wants to buy a house. Meanwhile, a 26-year-old software developer in Seattle gets called into his manager's office. He has been working weekends for a year. He gets a stellar performance review and a 3% raise. That same year, the cost of food and rent went up by 8%. He realizes, in real time, that despite working his heart out, he is mathematically poorer than he was 12 months ago. He logs onto LinkedIn and sees an article written by a 60-year-old CEO, "Why is Gen Z so lazy and entitled?" Here is the number that should stop you cold. According to recent economic data, the purchasing power of an entry-level salary today is roughly 30% lower than it was for our parents at the exact same age. We are working the exact same hours to buy a third less of a life. And yet, everyone is pointing at the wrong thing. The media says it is the TikTok mindset. The billionaires say we lack discipline. The motivational speakers tell us we just need to wake up at 4 a.m. and hustle harder. They are all completely, embarrassingly wrong because none of them are looking at the math. We are going to explain exactly what happened to the modern paycheck, why quiet quitting is actually a mathematically perfect response to a broken system, and why the companies complaining the loudest about our lack of work ethic are the ones who deliberately designed the game this way. But before we look at the numbers, I need you to hold a specific image in your head for the rest of this video. Imagine life is an arcade, and the economy is a giant vending machine. For the last 50 years, the instructions printed on the side of this vending machine were incredibly simple. You step up to the machine, you insert your coin, which represents a college degree and 40 hours a week of loyalty to a corporation. You press the button, and the machine reliably drops a middle-class life, a house, 2 cars, healthcare, and a comfortable retirement. Our parents and grandparents used this exact machine. It worked perfectly for them. The transaction was fair, so they handed us the exact same coin, pointed at the machine, and told us to press the button. But here's what they didn't realize. Somewhere around 2008, while we were still kids, a group of executives opened the back of that machine and completely rewired it. They didn't announce it, they just quietly changed the prices. Today, Gen Z steps up to the machine. We insert the degree, we insert the 40-hour work week, we press the button, and nothing comes out. The machine just asks for more coins. It asks for a master's degree. It asks for 60 hours a week. It asks for unpaid internships. You keep putting your life into the slot, and the machine keeps eating it. When older generations look at us, they see a generation that is just standing in front of the vending machine, refusing to put our coins in. They call us lazy. What they don't understand is that we aren't lazy. We just finally read the new price tag, and we realized the machine is a scam. Now, let's go deeper. Let's look at the actual math of staying broke, because this is where the lazy argument completely falls apart. Since 1979, worker productivity in the United States and most of the Western world has gone up by roughly 65%. Thanks to computers, AI, software, and the internet, one 25-year-old with a laptop today can do the work that used to take 3 people in the 1990s. By all logic of capitalism, if you produce 65% more value, your compensation should rise to match it, but it didn't. Over that same time period, hourly compensation only rose by about 17%. Where did the rest of the money go? It went straight to the top. It went to stock buybacks, executive bonuses, and shareholder dividends. Let me explain the concept of the silent pay cut. If you take a job paying $60,000 and inflation runs at 5% for the year, your cost of living just went up. If your employer gives you a standard 2% annual raise, they will shake your hand and tell you what a great job you're doing. But the math doesn't care about their handshake. Mathematically, you just took a 3% pay cut. Your employer is paying you less value for the exact same amount of time. You are literally bleeding wealth just by standing still. When Gen Z does the math on this, they realize something terrifying. Hard work is no longer correlated with financial stability. If working 20% harder only results in a 2% raise, that doesn't even cover the rising cost of groceries. Why would you work 20% harder? It's not a lack of drive. It is basic risk to reward calculation. If you sit at a poker table and you realize the dealer is skimming from the pot every single hand, getting up and leaving the table doesn't make you lazy, it makes you intelligent. This brings us to the psychological shift, the part that HR departments and corporate consultants completely fail to grasp. You see, for the system to work, it required something called information asymmetry. It required the fog. 20 years ago, you didn't know what your coworkers were making. You didn't know what the CEO's bonus was. You didn't know that a competitor across the street was paying 30% more for your exact role. The corporation held all the data, which meant they held all the power. They used the fog to suppress wages and demand blind loyalty. But Gen Z grew up on the internet. The fog doesn't exist for us. We can go on Reddit and read exact salary packages. We can watch a TikTok of someone explaining exactly how their company laid off 500 people over a 3-minute Zoom call while simultaneously reporting record profits. We see the code of the matrix. We watched our parents give their entire identities to companies, only to get downsized at age 55 with nothing to show for it but high blood pressure. We saw the contract broken in real time, so when a company tells a 23-year-old that we are a family and offers them free pizza on Fridays instead of a living wage, that 23-year-old doesn't feel motivated. They feel insulted. They are refusing to invest their identity into a system that views them as a disposable line item on an Excel spreadsheet. Let me show you how this actually plays out in the real world. Concrete cause and effect. Meet Mark and David, both 24 years old, both starting identical entry-level corporate jobs, earning $50,000 a year. Mark believes in the vending machine. He decides to play by the old rules. He shows up early. He leaves late. He answers emails on Sundays. He ties his ego to his job title. He does the work of 2 people, hoping that management will notice and reward him. After 3 years of extreme stress, Mark is promoted. He gets a new title and an 8% raise. He is now making $54,000. But over those 3 years, inflation and rent increases have completely eaten that $4,000. Mark is exhausted, burnt out, and functionally poorer than when he started. Now look at David. David understands that the machine is broken. He treats his employment as a strict, emotionless market transaction. He works exactly from 9 to 5. He does exactly what is in his job description, nothing more, nothing less. Quiet quitting in corporate terms, but delivering the agreed-upon contract in legal terms. Because David doesn't drain his soul into his employer, he has energy left at 6 p.m. He spends 2 hours every evening learning video editing, coding, or building a personal brand. He starts freelancing. After 3 years, David hasn't been promoted at his main job, but he has built a side income that brings in $30,000 a year. He has leverage. He has options. If his boss threatens to fire him, David doesn't panic because his identity and survival are not tied to one single entity. Mark treated the corporation like a family and got exploited. David treated the corporation like a utility and bought his freedom. So, if you are watching this and you are in your teens or 20s, what do? If the system is broken, do you just give up? Absolutely not. You just stop playing their game and you start playing your own. You need to completely detach your self-worth from your 9 to 5 job. Your employer is a client who buys 40 hours of your time a week. That is it. Do the work, be professional, and take your paycheck. But do not give them your nights, your weekends, or your mental health. Use the internet to your advantage. The same technology that corporations use to automate jobs is the same technology you can use to bypass them entirely. Learn high-income skills that don't require a university's permission to practice. Build an audience. Create multiple streams of income, even if they start at $50 a month. Your goal in your 20s isn't to climb a corporate ladder that is missing half its rungs. Your goal is to acquire personal leverage, because the only language the modern economy understands is leverage. Let's go back to the 24-year-old graphic designer in Chicago and the developer in Seattle from the beginning of this video, the ones who feel like they are failing despite doing everything right. If that sounds like you, I need you to hear this loud and clear. It is not your fault. You are not lazy. You are not entitled. You are simply suffering the psychological weight of playing a game where the rules were changed against you while you weren't looking. Gen Z doesn't hate working. In fact, if you look at the creator economy, independent developers, and young entrepreneurs, we are willing to work 80-hour weeks. We are willing to bleed for our passions. We will outwork any generation before us. But we refuse to work for a system that demands everything and guarantees nothing. We refuse to be loyal to a system that views us as expendable.